Is Islam any different? I mean, different from what? I guess that's what we're here to find out. Muslims think they're special, just like Christians do, just like every religion does. But does that really matter? That's what this is all about, after all, ego and self delusion. It's just hard to find people more deluded than the Muslims. So let's go take a look. Here comes another video suggested by friend of the channel Toaster, this time by Rhyad Muslim, which was the same as the last one he did, where he tries to assert that Islam is different than other religions. Something like that anyway, we'll get to it in a second. Yet this is something that we see from lots of different religions. How many times have we seen Christian claims that they're not a religion, they're a relationship? Now it's all nonsense, of course, but what do the Muslims have to say? Let's go find out.
What makes Islam different to all other religions?
Not a damn thing. Now, I guess it depends on the perspective that you take, and he's clearly assuming that, from a Muslim perspective, it's just magically special. But it's not, though. Because when I look at these things, I'm not saying, well, this one uses this book and this one uses that book or something shallow like that. I want to know if there is a fundamental difference in the way that they operate, such that one is more likely to be factually correct than another. And sadly, at least for the religious, none of them seem to do that. None of them seem to care. Every single last one of them are doing the exact same thing with only slight variations. Every single one of them relies on faith. All of them appeal to emotion. And so long as that's the case, at least so far as I'm concerned, none of them are remotely worthwhile. Come back when you've got some evidence to present. Until then, you're just wasting everybody's time.
The fact that it is not a religion.
Now, where have we heard that one before? I put it in the intro before I saw one word of this video, and that just shows just how much all of these stupid religions are the same. It is a religion. Look at the very definition of the word. The belief in and worship of a superhuman power or powers, especially a god or gods. That's religion. You have a religion. Deal with it.
Let me show you how. Behind me is the definition of religion.
And to be fair, that is pretty close to the one that I presented. In fact, both of them come from the Oxford Dictionary, although there are some slight variations in the wording. I don't know, maybe different editions? I don't know, it doesn't really matter. So let's try to figure out what he's going to say, because I don't see how he can possibly get there. Is he going to claim that Allah isn't a personal God? Well, that doesn't hold up. I mean, it is the belief in and worship of, well, you can go read it yourself. What part of that is not actually correct when it comes to Islam? Let me know down in the comments what you think he's going to pull, because I'm pretty sure it's going to be dumb.
As you can see, it is the belief in a personal God, which basically means that religion is something spiritual and personal and has nothing to do with society.
Which yours is. You are a person. You have a personal belief. You are a person and you have a belief, thus it is a personal belief. Personal beliefs come from people who believe them. Now, I don't know what the hell he's going to do. Maybe try to say that Allah is a universal belief or something? That it has nothing at all to do with individuals? I mean, I'm just kind of throwing up my hands on this one. So let's just get on with it.
In other words, you can believe in whatever God you want, but when it comes to how society is run, keep the religion out of it and leave that to the people.
What does that have to do with anything? Because religions can and do demonstrably operate within societies. Is he not aware of that or something? If he's going to say that, well, Islam runs the Middle East or whatever, then ask Christians who claim that America is a Christian nation. Maybe God runs America, according to them anyway. Maybe he's never heard that before, I don't know, but it'll be interesting to see how he gets from one to the other without looking like a complete dumbass.
Islam is completely different. In the Quran, Allah tells us that Islam is a deen, which most accurately translates to a system of life.
And pretty much every other religion out there says the same thing. All of them, at least the major ones that we talk about all the time, they are all making the same kind of assertion. Every single one claims to be the overriding factor by which all other things are measured. Where the hell have you been all your life? Christianity tells you that God is in charge of every element of every second of your life. Ever hear of Christian nationalists? They are no different at all than the Muslim terrorist groups that we see in the Middle East. Same stuff, different religions. Deal with it.
Meaning not only does Islam deal with your relationship with Allah, but also your relationship with yourself, with others, and definitely how society should be run.
Then I guess you've never heard of the Ten Commandments then, right? Only one of them really describes a relationship with God, although there are a couple that are ancillary. Most of the rest describe how society should be run under Jewish and later Christian doctrines. Stealing, coveting, lying, How does any of that have anything to do with worshiping God? How insulated is this idiot? It's like he's never heard of anything but his own ridiculous faith.
And when Allah says, Al-Yawma akmaltu lakum dinakum, today I have perfected for you your deen, by being a Muslim, you're perfecting your relationship with Allah, with yourself, with other people, and society is also perfected.
So why are Muslim nations such a disaster? Because if we look at the happiness index worldwide, most countries in the Middle East, the ones that are largely culturally Muslim, they tend to be the most miserable. I mean, Iraq and Iran clock in at number 107 and 110 respectively. These are not happy people. These are not successful people. I mean, their economies are crap. Just look at this chart of economic growth between 2010 and 2020, where everybody in the Middle East just tanked. This is for the Middle East and North Africa, which are the majority of Muslim states. If we go look at Iraq, it ranks number 120 in the world in terms of individual revenue, with your average citizen making less than $5,000 a year, something like that. These are not healthy people. They're just not.
Leading you and me to live the best life humanly possible as individuals and also as a society.
Not for a majority of Muslims, though. Sure, if you live in the US, you're probably doing just fine. But the US is most definitely not a Muslim stronghold. 1.1% of the total population of America, at least as of 2017 when the last survey was done, reported being Muslim. And I'm not sure where he thinks Muslims are doing that well overall. And I don't mean the rich oil barons, I mean the average Muslims on the street, because they're just not doing that hot. So how is Islam demonstrably making life better for everyone? He's the one claiming that Allah makes life perfect. And it's funny how the data doesn't seem to back that up.
And if you think about it, the proof is in the pudding. There's not a single society on the face of the earth whose laws are constantly changing. Yet Islamic law has never changed from the very beginning, yet it is solving issues that are coming about as an aftermath from these man-made laws.
Yeah, not so much. Because there are all kinds of things that they couldn't have possibly seen coming. Intellectual property laws, cybersecurity, things like that. Now, I could be mean and say that that's what happens when your society never gets beyond the goat herding phase. That's not exactly fair, certainly, but this is what happens when you read a lot into your beliefs, baldly rationalizing your blind faith to fit in with everything else. Christians have been doing that shit forever. This is where we have to look back at your silly books, be it the Bible or the Quran, and try to find specifics. They just never have any. Oh, well, that means this. Yeah, but that's not what it says, though. That's you shoving your beliefs into the mix, and that's just not impressive. This is where you need to show, not tell. Your individual interpretations of what it says in your books, that doesn't mean anything. Anybody can do that. You have to be able to present evidence. And good luck on that, because you're going to need it.
For example, the mass economic destruction that is happening because of interest, solved in Islam.
No, it's not. All you need to do is go and look at the interest rates in any Muslim country to see how similar they are to others. Islam hasn't solved anything. Oh, I'm sure he'll say, well, it's in the Quran. That doesn't mean that these countries actually follow any of it. But if there is a fundamental difference between theory and practice, then it's entirely irrelevant. So here's Iran and Iraq. Both of them are a complete mess, and both of them are majority Muslim, and all of them exercise Sharia law to some degree or another. So you're just wrong. What else is new?
The mental and physical and societal damage happening because of intoxicants, also solved in Islam.
Again, not in practice. It only takes looking at the actual data to see how wrong he is. Between 2015 and 2022, cases of alcohol consumption and alcohol poisoning in Saudi Arabia have gone through the roof. In several studies, researchers found that a high number of Saudi Arabia citizens are frequent alcohol drinkers, and 20% of respondents consumed it daily. Further, 68.7% reported drinking alcohol for more than an hour at a time regularly, and for those who regularly drank, 72.7% said they wound up in the hospital, with 70% reporting liver problems associated with chronic alcoholism. So, according to the Saudi Arabian Ministry of Health, drug addiction is a serious problem within their country. In fact, the most popular drugs in Saudi Arabia are methamphetamines. So this guy could just say, well, those aren't Muslims. But between 85 and 90% of everybody in Saudi Arabia reports being a Sunni Muslim. So this just isn't looking good for Islam, is it?
The corruption in the dating system and how little men and women are valued, also solved in Islam.
But that doesn't stand up to any scrutiny either. So let's go look at the data. There was a study performed within Saudi Arabia which showed that teenage pregnancy has fallen from 18% in 1979 to 6% in 1999. Now that's pretty good, right? Remember, Saudi Arabia is 85 to 90% Muslim. However, that's the same thing that happened across the entire first world. If we look at pregnancy rates among teens in the US in 1991, they've fallen dramatically as well, to the lowest rates, well, almost ever, at least as long as they've been keeping records. The US has very, very, very few Muslims, and it is seeing the exact same drop. That tells me it has absolutely nothing at all to do with Islam. It has to do with better medical care, better information, the availability of birth control, etc. If Islam was the source of the improvement, you would expect to see almost no teen pregnancy in Muslim-majority countries, right? Yet, that's just not how it works.
And this applies to every single aspect of life, which is why Allah says in the Quran, إِنِ الْحُكْمُ إِلَّا لِلَّهِ. Legislation is only for Allah.
Yeah, but Allah isn't doing very well, is he? Every single example that he's brought up, they've all been wrong. Demonstrably wrong. I brought the receipts, and he's done nothing but just make empty claims. And that's one thing that you'll notice. They don't actually have any evidence to back any of this up. If we do an apples-to-apples comparison, religion, and it isn't just Islam, but religion in general, it just doesn't stack up. They just want to believe, and they figure that the people that they're making their videos for, well, they're just not bright enough to go out and do the legwork to check it out. because none of them actually care. Yet, for anybody with a brain, you can do a simple Google search, just like I did. None of this stuff was buried in surveys and studies away from prying eyes, but you could just do a simple Google search and find out that it's all nonsense. Because that's all religion is. Nonsense.
And before you say it, no. There's not a single country on the face of the earth today that applies Islam practically.
Great. Then it's completely worthless. Your claims, without objective corroboration, just prove that you're an idiot. The Islam in your head isn't the Islam that anyone believes in, any more than the Christianity in the Bible is anything that any Christians actually follow. It's an ideal with absolutely no application, and therefore it's entirely empty. This guy is a complete imbecile.
Muslims today believe in Islam, but sadly don't apply it, and that needs to change. Doing that will lead to true revival, and all humanity would benefit, as Allah promises in the Quran.
Except that's not true, is it? He makes this video that says, "How is Islam different?" And then he winds up saying that Islam isn't any different. The only difference is in his head. And I'm not sure how that's supposed to be impressive. Islam in the real world is a mess, just like every other religion. Just because he really wishes that it was different, just like lots of hardcore Christians really wish that the various sects weren't absurdly stupid, that doesn't actually change the reality of it all, does it? Islam isn't better. It isn't different. It's just as stupid as all the other religions are. This guy just spent a couple of minutes making a complete fool of himself. And I trust nobody is at all surprised. If Islam is just an idea in your head, then you've got some problems. This is probably nowhere more true than it is with Rhyad Muslim, which is kind of sad, right? Anyway, I just wanted to thank Toaster for sending this video my way. If you come across something that you want me to take a look at, then by all means, look down in the video description for a way to send it to me. Because I will look at your video. It may not do them all, but I will look at your video, and then you're going to get credit on the channel. So anyway, until next time, stop listening to these idiot apologists. Just laugh in their faces. It's really the only thing they're good for.